Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another installment of A Rebel Without Applause, coming to you from my little nutshell of infinite space right here in the wood of the holly under this sign. And beyond that sign on the other side of the hill is the subject of what I'll be talking about. That's Warner Brothers. And with me today is an extremely accomplished and experienced journalist, winner of many awards. She was a foreign correspondent in Europe and the Middle East before she became a media mogul in her own right in 2009. And that's when she started really this publication called The Wrap, which has its finger on all things Hollywood and media. And she recently wrote a very compelling op-ed piece in the New York Times. And she's with me here on the other side of this digital divide. Welcome to A Rebel Without Applause from the author who wrote The Rebel with the director is the whole thing.
I wrote the Rebels on the backlot, so I guess we've got similar sensibility.
Yes,
It's
Rebels there.
it's this one. I'll show it to you because it's here. It's this, which is really about the studio system at its height in the 90s, actually, and now we're seeing the kind of I'd say a reshaping of the studio system.
Right. And it was almost like a sequel to Easy Rider Raging Bulls in a way,
Mm-hmm.
was the
It
generation
was.
directors that presided over the Ancien Regime's dissolution, of which my
Yep.
grandfather, Ben Kalmanson, was prominent in the book. After all, he greenlighted Bonnie and Clyde and things like that. He was president of Warner Brothers. But anyway, you were in a new moment of this seismic shifting where the conversion of technology and corporate greed is rocking our world. Um, just as a first thing, I want to congratulate you on dancing again because I saw that.
Oh no.
I didn't see the dancing theater, but I did.
No, you're not gonna, but okay, that was definitely TMI. Okay, good. Moving on.
But it's all about trying to stay happy in this moment we're
That's in this crazy moment. That is true.
in.
Yes.
I'm
Find your joy, whatever makes you happy, whatever gives you joy, like take a
right,
minute and do that thing.
right, because we ain't getting a second runaround, as far as I know, on this life.
Hmm.
And there's certain forces out there that would just willingly and thrillingly take your joy and happiness. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you still have it. But anyway, back to this new drama that's playing out in front of us. Warner Brothers, Paramount, Kushner, the Saudis,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
antitrust laws. It's all
The
happening.
plot thickens. Exactly. Yeah.
Your thoughts just as we dive into this.
Uh my thoughts are right now that 'cause a lot of people have been asking me which way is it going to go, and I'm asking people which way is it going to go. We break down the relative appeal, pros, cons for shareholders, not so much for the industry in our lead piece today on the wrap. I don't know when this podcast is going up, but essentially Roger Chang broke down what the appeal is, pros, cons for the shareholders, which is not the same thing at all for necessarily consumers of
Mhm.
movies and television, or of course for the industry itself, which is I think where the rub is for everybody, because ultimately what serves shareholders would have been for David Zaslav to not buy Warner Brothers, merge it with Discovery.
Right.
That's actually what would have been better for Warner Brothers shareholders, that it would have stayed, or that AT&T would have done something else with it, because the amount of debt that he loaded the company up with made everything 1,000 times more difficult. HBO is a
Mhm.
successful company. They've managed to grow it. Warner Brothers faces many of the same problems that all the other studios and that are in the theatrical movie business are facing. But this year they're having a great year with two really good movie executives, who I presume will have to go away at the end of this process, Pam Abdi and Mike DeLuca.
Oh, yeah.
So right now, so first of all, I will recommend there's a really good piece again on the New York Times op-ed page uh, this morning by an antitrust lawyer named
Right.
Tim Wu that I just retweeted.
Right. I
He
read it. I
talked
just
about
read it.
You
Yes.
just read. It's a
Yeah.
really good piece, right? Because he's an expert in antitrust, which I most certainly am not. And
Mhm.
he says, which I actually have been seeing other people saying, is like neither side is good necessarily for certainly not for competition, ultimately for consumers. And if you believe that movies are a thing that should continue to exist in movie theaters, but also for the relative creativity of the industry, putting two of the top streamers, Netflix number one, HBO Discovery probably number three, depending, putting those two together is definitely going to have an impact on the competitive marketplace of ideas, right? Not just of consumer competitors and Netflix's ability to continue raising prices if it wants to. And
Right.
on the Paramount side, what people really seem exercised about, and not without cause, is the idea of the Ellisons and now three sovereign wealth funds who are, you want to tell me they're going to have no involvement, like they're not on the board, they have no governance, but they're owners. And Jared Kushner, like that piece yesterday really just like stuck in my throat because it's so brazen to have the son-in-law of the president involved in this deal, which so clearly is trying to get Trump to put his finger on the scale in favor of it, that is going to mean essentially a right-leaning media mastodon. Come up with your name. Like, I have nothing against David Ellison. He's very passionate about film, absolutely passionate about movies and theaters, but it's his dad's money, and they will own TikTok if this goes through. TikTok,
Right.
HBO, CNN, CBS News, Paramount, Warner Brothers. It's a little bit staggering. So some of the people, I feel like I'm going on too much, but some of the people I talked to over the weekend, I talked to a lot of former and current power players in the industry, and what was my point? I had a point there.
Well, you've got two competing, obviously,
Yeah.
players here, one of which is part of this PVP mafia, Putin's vice president's mafia, which includes the soup of the Saudis. It may mean that executives in the future, if Paramount were to prevail, instead of being fired and let go with golden parachutes, might be just chopped up in foreign embassies. Who knows? It's just a possibility.
I mean, I know that's the gallows humor, and you're referring to Jamal Khashoggi, of course. I mean, it seems as if all the taboos and all of the caveats and all of the sort of judgments that we sort of would say, it's better not, as regards the various Gulf countries, which each of them have different factors in them that might give you pause, that's just gone away. For a long time, Saudi Arabia now, I'd say since the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, has been in this kind of nether zone. We haven't invited MBS to the White House, now we have. And so a lot, as anybody in Hollywood knows, people have been flocking to the Gulf for the past 5 or more years with their hands out, looking for cash. And this is obviously just like the latest wave. There's various waves over the past number of decades of outside money that either producers or studios, go to, whether that was Japan or Germany or, China as a co-pro, right? So now it's been the Gulf, and this thing with Saudi Arabia, whatever taboo there was now seems completely gone. And Qatar has its fingers in everything, and very, very difficult to suss out what Qatar's actual motives are, what the actual agenda is. They just had a massive conference in Doha over the weekend. The Milken Institute hosted it, and it was everybody from Tucker Carlson moderating with Hillary Clinton speaking, and I think the foreign minister of Iran. It was this very odd platform to talk about democracy, improving the economy, to do that in a place like Qatar, where half of the residential population is basically in indentured slavery to the 300,000 Qataris who are the privileged, citizens of Qatar. it's all pretty suspect, I would say. And then then the Jared Kushner on top of it. I know I'm
It's,
rambling on, but
it's
I
a
just,
huge soup of toxicity.
it's a huge soup of bad choices, and that was kind of what Tim Wu was writing. And
Right.
what I know I started to say was that Chris Murphy is the senator, the Democratic senator, was tweeting this morning almost exactly what Tim Wu wrote, which is that neither of these choices are good for the country, for the industry, or for the consumer, and that actually neither of them should happen.
Right.
I don't think that is a possibility. I think one of them is going to happen.
Well, what he said is there's a presumption of illegality at the beginning because of the Clayton Act of 1916, which was part of
Hmm.
this anti-monopoly fervor, not to demolish capitalism, but to preserve it, actually, because we need competition. And this is a massive slash in or consolidation. It'll mean, loss of people within the industry, as you say, the diversity of ideas. And one of the things that scares me, particularly with the whole Paramount thing, is the resurrection of Brett Ratner, which in and of itself might be, problematic because he's.
I mean, it's a detail, really, right? But just the idea that the White House is getting to dictate decisions about movie making is the world we're now in. It's
Right.
very it's And I think those of us who sort of grew up with certain expectations and bedrock beliefs around freedom of expression, freedom of artistic choice, these are all really bedrock for a democracy. And it seems that they have been slipping, as we all have been, reading about the rise of authoritarianism, and those things may seem distant in some ways from what the movie and television industry do, but in fact, as soon as you get, 1/4 inch deeper, it immediately starts to impact those pretty basic uh, freedoms that you can't have um, an entertainment industry without freedom. Actually, you really can't.
Right. We have a powerful example in the 30s when all these great, talented German writers and directors, from Thomas Mann to Billy Wilder, fled, Germany and
Germany.
enriched Hollywood by huge measures. So,
Yeah,
and also this
that's a
convergence
great point. That's a great point.
of
What they
technology.
couldn't do in Germany, they brought and did here, and created really like
Right.
the foundational cultural content, like the fabric of our culture in a lot of ways.
Nobody understood America better than Billy Wilder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And here he
yeah.
was, a Jewish guy from Germany. As a matter of fact, last night, because I'm an addict for Turner Classic, was Metropolis, which was, of course, the Fritz Lang
Oh wow.
piece. And just watching it again, it's incredible. For me personally, I feel like a dinosaur. Like I am seeing the asteroid come and just pretty much ready to wipe me out. That's why I'm surrounded by dinosaurs, specifically with regards to
Mm.
theatrical exhibition, which was
Hmm.
in the world of my grandfather. That was how they made money. There was really no other downstream possibility other than tickets and collecting them from exhibitors. And when I walked down to where ArcLight Theater was or is, and the Cinerama Dome, it's boarded up. It might as well be a Western ghost town. And
Mm.
theatrical
Wow.
exhibition is that's why I made my movies. As a matter of fact, the movie that I directed and wrote, which Warner Brothers ultimately acquired, The Solar Opposite,
Hmm.
me, if it didn't get in theaters, it was a failure. That's why I fought so hard to get it in the theaters, because the paying audience that's where the rubber meets the road, not 6,000 feet in elevation at Park City at Sundance. So I don't know. I'm sad about that. Really sad.
Yeah, a lot of people are sad. One of the arguments I had this weekend with a former person who used to run one of these companies, who I won't name, was him saying, look, television is really the business now. Movies are only 8% of what Warner Brothers Discovery drives as revenue. And so, sort of keep your eye on the ball, because the real lifeblood of this economic system is television, which means streaming today. And that is why all the people on Wall Street are basically saying that Comcast or NBCU is screwed in this deal because they are subscale and they can't grow their way organically to become a real competitor. And that's why Paramount really needs this deal, because while they have some scale, they're really subscale when compared to Netflix, Disney, and what Amazon can do with its massive numbers. So that means for their purposes, for Paramount's purposes, the danger of having HBO merge with Netflix really relegates them to they have no potential strategy to actually get the scale that they need to compete at a top level, which is what the game is all about. So streaming is really the name of the game from an economic perspective now, from a business perspective. But my point to this former um, mogul was that what makes people give up their lives in middle America, come and live in a garret in Hollywood and starve to death until they're discovered at Schwab's or whatever. I just mixed a whole bunch of anecdotes there.
Yeah.
Is the movies, is what the magic is the movies. That's what makes people dream. That's what, made, I mean, that is my book of Rebels on the Backlot, but really what made Quentin Tarantino cut school, stay home, and watch videos all day in the dark of his bedroom as a teenager. That is what drove Paul Thomas Anderson, who, of course, is one of the modern masters of movie making, I think, anyway, to spin these very elaborate tales with all of these characters. It was the movies that made them dream. And so, and even the Duffer Brothers, who are television guys who just left Warner Brothers to Universal, did it because they want to make movies. That was one of the key elements that was dangled in front of them. So that's kind of my sense. We can argue, back and forth whether movies are just a format, and storytelling is really, and storytelling and story and content in general can be reformulated into any kind of multi-series, vertical,
Right.
video. Um, the argument could be made. I think that there's, to me and many other people who are drawn to this business, that magical thing of sitting in a theater, sitting in a room with a bunch of other strangers, looking at something on a big screen,
Mhm.
that there is something very magical and unique about that we would lose really as a culture, as a country, as a world, if that went away.
Well, half the population of Los Angeles, probably more, has already prepared their Oscar speech, whether or not they've made a movie or not. It is one of the core dreams of our society. I have
Yeah, it
worked
is.
on mine in the wee hours of the night, So,
Have you been nominated?
no, but I still am preparing the
You still
speech.
work on an Oscar
If
speech,
I
you still
haven't,
haven't been
I prepared
nominated.
the speech
Okay.
before I wrote the screenplays. Come on.
Okay, well, that is the kind of aspiration that we look for in people.
I will
Okay.
say this: Jeff Canoe, who is a very good director and was a friend of mine, voted for me as best director, gave me a vote for my movie, The Solar Opposite, which a shameless plug. This is it. It's really good. It's a romantic mockery
Yeah,
about,
you showed it already. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
about a comedian whose love life is a joke, and it's all true except for the happy parts. And it's a really good movie. And actually, Warner Brothers ultimately acquired it after I got it out, and it got earned good reviews in theaters. So I think, and I'm in a movie that won Best Picture. So I didn't get,
Okay.
and that's Argo.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, great film.
But that's, I didn't even get invited, to the show, whatever. But I'm still in the dreamland, and exhibition and making movies is a core dream. And when they put them in for, like, I saw Frankenstein in the theater. I thought, wow, this is a great movie to see in the theater. And I realized it's
Yeah,
gone in like a week.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
I don't want to be one of these kind of people that's always things were better then. But you take, for example, Bonnie and Clyde. That movie kind of stumbled out of the gate in theaters, but for the fact that they could keep it there, it could find an audience, and some critics like Pauline Kael sort of rediscover it, and then it gains its own momentum and becomes this cultural hit and important movie. It doesn't happen unless it gets a little bit of a life and breathing room in the theaters. And those
Well,
days
I mean, they're real.
are
I
gone.
mean, look, the theatrical movie business is in a sad state separate and apart
Right.
from this sale of Warner Brothers, right?
Yes.
There's very little variety. There's a couple of different genres of movies that get slots in theaters. When you're referring to Frankenstein, that's basically Netflix saying, first of all, doing an Academy run
Right.
essentially, and also basically trying to make Guillermo del Toro happy. But it was only in, I believe, 380 theaters,
Yeah.
which is ridiculous, which is like nothing, of course, for a movie like that. So we have a bigger problem, which is that people don't want to get up and go. Like it takes really a lot to get people to go up and go to the movie theater, which is, it's kind of crazy because when we have successful movies like Disney's, what was Disney's recent release that just did, a half a billion dollars over the Thanksgiving Day weekend. Why is the name escaping me now? Zootopia 2, of
Oh,
course. Thank
okay.
you for
Yeah.
my brain. Boop.
Yeah.
When there's something people want to see, and of course, in that case, also that got released in China, which was massive.
Hmm.
Most movies are not being released in China anymore. People will get up and go. And of course, kids will watch Zootopia 2 10 more times on Disney Plus. So
Right.
there's a model for those kinds of movies, but it is really challenging to figure out how you get people to theaters. We're talking now about going to Sundance, making our plans for going to Sundance, which is having its last year in Park City this year.
No.
And it's so sad when you look back at the previous year. We're kind of saying, okay, what resources do we want to devote? Like, how much? We usually send a very big team of people out there, and we like interviewing the directors. I really like supporting young filmmakers and giving visibility to their work. And Robert Redford did the film business a huge gift. He gave us a huge gift with the creation of the Sundance Institute and Sundance Film Festival. Rest in peace, Robert Redford. We miss you. Um, but the truth is, very few films see the light of day out of Sundance anymore.
Oh, well, they never
So
did. It was always few that actually got through
it was always a
it.
few, but they would break through. And of course, Coda won Best Picture. And there's many examples of movies that came out of Sundance that competed for Best Picture.
Right.
But the numbers are so few right now. And, there used to be, you probably remember bidding wars that would be significant. There'd be significant money put down. Even in the age of the streamers, Netflix used to bid. They just don't anymore. They make their own content. They make their own movies. And so where do these young filmmakers have a chance to have their work see the light of day? It's really hard. And if you are on Netflix, if you do get acquired by Netflix, which, as I say, is rare, is now a rare occurrence, you kind of get lost in that huge sea of choice
Right.
that they offer.
Well,
So it's a real conundrum.
there's a lot of blame to go around. I mean, just exhibition in and of itself, I think the exhibitors, you look at AMC, you got to watch 40 minutes of trailers, be preceded by, advertising, the popcorn, everything's very expensive. And then before you see the movie, you have to watch Nicole Kidman talk about the
Also,
magic of movies, which
right.
makes me, I've often wanted to walk out before the movie started. Exhibition, I think, is problematic. And for me, I feel like the movie studios, have failed themselves because, over the last few decades, they've really kind of given up their core responsibility, which is to pick movies, to read scripts, to make calls, to get to field ideas. And it feels like most of that has shifted to the agencies and the packaging and all this stuff. And so you just don't have that the kind of confidence in those executive offices to go, this works, let's make this. And then if you build it, those people will come. I've written a number of scripts and I've been out there, and it's always like, if I can get this person, this person, and this person, I just want to go into Warner Brothers and talk to people and pick.
I gotta take a pause, Bill. I don't know if it's possible to pause the recording. I've got somebody
Sure.
at my door.
Take
Okay,
it. I'll just pause. Go ahead.
just hit pause.
Zoom. Okay, back on. Anyway, what I was talking about was just, I feel that the studios have failed their core prerogative, which is choice of movies. And I just don't feel that. Maybe it's my own frustration of feeling it's just
Well, are you
access.
do you not watch things on streaming?
Not too much. I've been on a few of the shows like Jury Duty and some others, but I am a dinosaur. I enjoy movies. I've watched
Well, so
classic.
it's technically not correct to say there isn't more choice for the consumer. There's a sea of choice on streaming to
Right.
see current new releases, international releases, archived historic films. Not all of them, but some of them as they cycle through. So you have almost more choice than you know what to do with. That's part of the problem today.
Yeah, well, my just personally, I sort of live in like old movies or movies that I admire and that inspire me. So, like Turner Classic is sort of a go-to channel for me personally.
Yeah,
Um,
it's going to go away if all of this.
Happen,
It's more than likely to be a part of the dinosaur past. But I mean,
right?
definitely you're an outlier, probably, right,
My
in your
viewing,
taste. Hmm.
maybe
Yeah, yeah.
it's very sad. I mean, I think alternatively, just there's still an appetite for good stories well told, and with good movies, I think people will come. Um, I personally am not seeing that many movies that interest me, although I did see, I liked Hamnet, and
Hmm.
I saw Frankenstein, which, while that's not my fave genre, I thought it was really well done. Um,
Hmm.
so I still have faith that good stories, well told, that people will come. I mean, I'm of a certain age, but there's
Well,
millions
I will
and
tell
millions
you that
like
that
me.
whole conversation. I mean, that ship has sailed, right? I mean, Netflix has won the streaming wars, and now it's about to. It may well absorb Warner Brothers. So I don't think anyone is putting a lot of thought. Um, Look, I mean, we have not achieved a domestic box office figure yet that gets us back to where we were at the end of 2019 before COVID.
Well, that's
So the numbers are telling you now, and it does become a self-fulfilling cycle that you stop making movies for release when you don't see the return on the investment. And the same as, they basically everybody abandoned cable several years ago and even stopped making programming for cable networks, which still actually produce quite a lot of cash flow for these big companies. So the studios and the conglomerates have made their choices, and their choices are a very narrow strategy, like a certain strategy for theatrical,
mhm.
and big investments in streaming. That is the choice that they've made. But I think also that we have seen, even before, if we're being honest, even before COVID, attendance was dropping in theaters
Oh, I
because
agree.
of streaming.
I agree.
So and the prices of tickets kept going up. So all of this started to become a self-fulfilling cycle, and of course COVID really kind of stuck the knife into theatrical in a big way.
Well, returning to the two op-eds, first yours, which
Yeah.
Hollywood hates this. I think your article was written before. It seemed like it was just going to be Netflix. Now we're in some sort of proxy battle with Paramount as well.
Yep. Yep.
To the article that appeared this morning, it's against the law. I mean, it is a violation of this act, but you need political will to enforce those laws. And that's certainly, I don't
Oh, yeah, and I'm sure
get there.
they're going to have lots of lawyers who interpret anti-competition, antitrust in all kinds of ways. So, as the piece this morning pointed out, and we've also pointed out in our coverage on the Wrap, and I recommend to all your viewers that you subscribe to the Wrap, because it's if you are employed in this industry, or if you care a lot about it, we're writing a lot more than one op-ed piece every so often. We're
Right.
really hitting this topic very deep and very hard every day. They were saying that you're not. Uh, what was it? What was the beginning of this comment about what Tim Wu was
Well, I'm
writing
talking
this
about the
morning about
antitrust
antitrust?
laws that they're on the face of it,
Oh yes, that
basically
they're going to argue.
illegal.
Sorry, yes, thank you. That Netflix is going to argue that their competition is YouTube. they're going to argue that their competition are not the other studios, which is one. I mean, that's exactly what everybody's going to do. Everyone's going to pick the argument that makes sense
Right.
for their case, for their winning case. And so they'll say that, YouTube and TikTok, they're going to argue hours of consumer attention rather than movie studios vying for projects or TV companies vying for for the Duffer Brothers,
Right.
and so then they would argue it's not at all a violation of antitrust law.
Right. And that they're going to have an argument for it. I don't think that there's any political will in the current administration to put a break on however this plays out. I think their
That
finger,
seems pretty clear.
yeah, I think their finger is going to be on the Paramount side for reasons you already mentioned.
Hmm.
Um, but it is, but there's not a lot of respect for laws right now. And if you fly the drone up higher, that 1916 Clayton law was sort of a response to the Gilded Age of massive, Standard Oil and some of these other industries. We needed to break them up. And as a matter of fact, they did it to Hollywood in the 40s when they divested the studios of their movie theaters.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that was a big
Right.
blow at the time, seemingly so.
Right. Hmm.
So it's not altogether impossible that, well, maybe it'd be litigated. And by the time, that the next administration, whatever that might be, might put a break on it. Because when you have this kind of consolidation, it's not good for labor. It's not good for the creative choices.
Well, I mean, labor has been screaming from the rooftops since the beginning. Since the Netflix deal was announced on Friday morning, you've had practically every guild come out and just shouting their concerns.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Writers Guild, Screen Actors Guild, Producers Guild. I think the Teamsters as well. Yeah.
yeah. And from where I sit as an actor, it's very hard to get anything unless you're a star above scale. It's just like take it or leave it. And that's been that way for a long time, I think. But
Yeah.
um, so I don't know what to make of it. We have this convergence of technology and creativity and commerce. And on some level, it's the Northern California velociraptors feeding on the old Southern California industry, meaning tech. And
Hmm.
I don't know what it means, honestly. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't think there's the political will to put a stop to this. Personally, I
Well,
feel.
I think we're definitely in a new age, right? We had a century, really more or less a century of how Hollywood was built and
Mhm.
then functioned, and there were different changes, from the silent movies to the talkies, from black and white to color, from movies to television, from television to DVDs and cable, and from all of that to streaming. So we've had different phases, but we have had about a good solid 100 years of a thriving, prosperous business where lots of different levels of the economic system were able to make a living. And I suppose you can make a living in the streaming model, but it's not as good a living. And the wealth is of the prosperity is really reserved for the companies rather than for the creatives who participate in the process. And that means the producers, the actors who you say mostly are getting scale and a lot of things, producers who are not getting back ends anymore, the agents for the actors who are not able to negotiate the big deals that they used to, except in some exceptional cases. So this really does kind of curtail, I think, what was the prosperity that people enjoyed for a really long time. I'm not saying it wasn't perfect. I'm not saying it didn't have its excesses, and I'm not saying it didn't have its inequities, but in general, we're now in a different phase, and the new economic model, which is a piece that Roger Chang and I wrote yesterday, which is really about how Netflix changed the model probably a decade ago. Every other streamer has followed suit, and the vestiges of that world in which residuals and back ends and profit participation was a way for people who are creative to live down the line, all the way down the line from successful projects that they did, is really going away. And that does mean a very different economic reality for a lot of people who are
Right.
in the industry.
I mean, you look at places like Studio City, where I could remember very fondly, where someone said, "Yeah, I bought a house. I got a national commercial." and I got health insurance. It like supported real people in a real middle class
Right.
economy.
And also, and dry cleaners and diners and caterers and
All those restaurants and
all of those things. Yes.
yeah,
And that is, and yeah, and you saw a lot of those businesses die during the strike that we had, the double strike. So I think that's really, and that's who we represent. Our readers are the people who make up the industry. And that's kind of who I have, not only sort of from a macroeconomic level, but from a micro, these are the people who we hear from every day and who we speak to, not just the power players. That is concerning, right? That, and I think that's why the piece that I wrote in the Times, which is basically, I've heard for years how people resent Netflix. That's why. That's why. It's not because they don't like Ted Sarandos. Ted Sarandos is a super nice guy, very charming, really, a good guy. Like, we have a lot of rotten apples in this industry for many years. Ted Sarandos is a really good guy,
mhm,
but the economic model that he's introduced has had a profound impact on the economic reality for people in the industry. And so for that reason, I think Netflix is really resented. And what you see bursting into the open now is this um, anger that's been bubbling below the surface for many years now.
right. And just the fact I'm doing this podcast with you, and you're the Wrap is a kind of new media, all internet based, all gifted to us by new technology, and it's spelled the demise of other industries, and maybe given me a little hope that I can reach people through
Yeah,
this.
this way.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, yeah,
there's some gifts to what's happened, and there's some losses. I mean, Netflix first chewed and ate Blockbuster. It was like ate it up. Where'd they go? That was used to be a video
yeah.
store. They're
Right.
gone.
And before that, Amazon killed bookstores. Right. So,
Right, right. And what
right.
happened?
So I mean that, because I'm a writer, and so I've always had this. Jeff Bezos isn't a bad guy, but he killed bookstores. And that was one of my favorite places
To
to
hang
hang
out.
out and to just to be.
Right. And I could have
And
met you
it still is,
beforehand
by the
at
way.
Barnes and Nobles. I could have. Oh, who's that? I want to see if I can talk to her. In the bookstore. So that world's gone, except
Yeah,
the growth.
and that, I mean, well, they've come back in a funny way, and there are still neighborhood bookstores, but so many bookstores closed, and so many publishers just had to bend the knee to Amazon because they were so powerful. And it's the exact same thing that happened when Netflix killed Blockbuster. You could also argue that Blockbuster was very slow and fat and happy for a long time and thought nothing was going to move this great business that they had.
Hmm.
And now you have to explain to your grandchildren, there was this thing called Blockbuster, kids. Let me tell you about it.
Right.
So
You have to be nimble in capitalism and try and be flexible. My family's in the radio business, and we're in old media too. And how do you maintain relevance in radio when the jukebox function has been absconded by
yeah,
Spotify? It's very hard,
right.
and
Hmm.
it's a challenge to think creatively. Tower Records, for example, was a great place I used to hang out.
A great place to hang out. Really fun, right?
Gone.
That
Yeah.
Yeah, all of that, that's sort of physical, but I also think some of it will come back. 'Cause one of the things that you can see and feel around you is that there is a desire to be in person, and there's a desire to be together with other people. Um, in maybe it'll be in different ways. Maybe it's not Tower Records anymore, and it's not Barnes and Noble anymore, but people will find ways to be together. Live entertainment is booming, absolutely booming.
Right.
So that's another sign of how people do want to be able to be together for experiences that they share and that they're passionate about.
Well, I'm going to put my faith in what you just said, Sharon, because in the end, humans are gifted with the talent of story and telling it and hearing it and imagining it. So I'm hopeful that however the dust settles here, I mean, I have my opinions about it in terms of legality and the politics. And I often think that Trump was just using Washington as a way to break into Hollywood. It's like it was a bridge, a means to an end to control media. So I don't know where it's going, but I really appreciate what you've accomplished, and actually the rap too. I mean, whatever happened to the Hollywood Reporter and the Variety? It was on every desk, every coffee table in Hollywood. It's like, hey, I got a part. Maybe Army Archer will mention it.
Now it's all on your phone. And
Right.
so, we have to do a good job of presenting ourselves on your phone because that's where you're most likely to be reading us and getting your information.
Right. And just as a closing coda, I thought maybe, I hope not, but theatrical exhibition has sort of gone the way, like people are now buying vinyl to listen to music in a way.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
kind of a niche thing and people dig it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where theatrical exhibition is. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that there is an argument that it'll become like this precious, specialized thing 10 years down the line. Not right away, but definitely old models are changing, and we'd be best advised to figure out not how to hang on to the past, but how to hang on what we most valued from that, and to find the new formats and platforms and ways to translate that, because people still want to be together and people always will crave good stories.
Right. So I'm going to have to get rid of some of these dinosaurs and look more towards.
Yeah, it's possible. You might want to think about it.
Sharon Waxman, editor,
Thanks
publisher,
for having me, Bill.
founder, media mogul, and we didn't even get into the Middle East, which I would love to deep dive in. I know you have
Another time.
another problem we can't solve in a podcast. But I want to thank you for being here, folks. Check out The Wrap if you're not subscribing already.
Check us out.
And I will say this,
TheWrap.com.
if you want to preserve free speech and journalism, pay for it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Subscribe to the New York Times, the Washington Post, here in LA, The Wrap.
Thank you. Thank you for your loyalty. We appreciate it.
We have an obligation
into the journalism. We're not.
Yes.
This is I don't have a mansion. I put it into the journalism.
Right. We have an obligation not just to blame the powers that be, but as citizens to consume, to stay educated and informed. That's really where democracy can survive. And so with that thought, I'm going to leave you, and I hope I get to meet you in real time and real place, because I think you're terrific. Till next time.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Namaste, shalom, and aloha. By that I mean
aloha. Bye. See you.
Namaste, aloha. See ya.